There it goes.
Okay, we're back. Thank you very much for your time waiting on us. We're going to move to financials.
You're right. And for the record, no action was taken during the executive session.
Right. Financials.
Rick, do you want to? He's muted.
I'll let you do it, Rose.
Okay, lucky me. There's not really much that happened, I guess, in April. Some administrative pass-through fees, so that's Loki Brill, money in and money back out. There's the administrative staff fees for the month, and then there's also the negative number down in PPE grants. It looks strange, but that's part of the adjustments that were made for the CRC and administrative staff time, etc. It'll come back over from the CRC at the end of the quarter.
Rose,
Yeah.
the 11,000 administrative fees, could you break that down a little bit more?
That's just our fees for running the office and the meetings and all the projects and year-end reporting still.
Year-end report is in there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. And then just a reminder, Danny, the audit committee does go through our timesheets every
No, I was just
quarter.
putting notes down. I just want to know what that.
Oh yeah, that's
that
us.
looked like.
That's just us. And then, like I said, though, the audit committee will go through the timesheets in detail at the end of the quarter.
Gotcha.
All right, we're good.
Yep. Then on the assets, nothing has really changed much. Most stuff was moved over to M&T Bank. The Rhinebeck Savings CD will come due in July. Rick and I discussed what to do with our finances. However, there's a monkey wrench in it that he has not heard yet either. We think it makes the most sense to renew our CDs at Rhinebeck because those are honestly the best rates right now. We also discussed some CDs at Bank of Greene County based on the rates they were offering online. When we reached out to them, though, they're not offering CDs to municipalities, only for personal. So Rick and I'll kind of have to go back to the drawing board on that. Jimmy, I took your suggestion also, and I did reach out to a well-known and respected financial advisor in Kingston and asked if he had any other suggestions for us because CD rates are abysmal at this point. He said, bond rates are not better right now, and we would be locked into it for so long that it doesn't make sense. And because of the fiduciary responsibilities you have over these funds, there's really nothing to do at this point besides wait.
Yeah, no, bond rates are horrible right now.
Yeah, everything is just is difficult, and we're in a tough spot. We can't do fun things like the stock market. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay. That's your report?
Yep.
Okay.
That's
I need a motion to accept the report as presented.
Make a motion, we accept the report.
Do I have a second?
I'll make the second.
A second. Any questions? Any more questions? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. The chair's report. I gotta tell you, every month, busy, busy, busy. We had some discussion recently with some members of the Ulster County leadership. It was basically where we're all at, how the relationship is working, potential things in the future, just putting people on boards, given the fact that we're very important, potentially raising our profile a little bit by being more and more part of a decision-making process when it comes to economic development in the county. Nothing of any substance at this point. Otherwise, we would have discussed it before now. Just basically quarterly, we meet with staff from the county executive's office and we go through a few of the goals that we've set with each other and to see where we sit and why we're there, why we're not there. And, so far so good, I guess. There's quite a bit more stuff coming out in this county. and it looks as though we're going to be busy. We may, in the future, need to address our budget and change some numbers around as far as admin costs and legal costs and, moving the money, so to speak, from your left pocket to your right pocket and just change some of the numbers around. Not a typical 3% bump every year kind of thing. So we'll have to make it work. Rose told me the other day your contract is coming up.
It is at the end of June.
Okay. Faye, how are you for time?
How am I for time?
Yeah, are you that busy, or can you participate? You and Rick sitting down with Faye sitting down with Rose and taking a look at what's there and coming back with a recommendation.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Okay, so Faye and Rick can coordinate that with Rose to sit down and, we have to do our diligence as well. And we don't want anybody working for nothing either. So we'll take a long, hard look at. Mike says he wants you to work for nothing, Rose. So
I can be like you guys then.
yeah, I definitely work for nothing. So we're busy. It's the typical stuff. What pops up? It's amazing. There's a certain project that we heard every day for every week for every month for about 2 or 3 years, and I've heard nothing about that as of late. So hopefully the development keeps going and people look to us as an asset rather than a hindrance. And the IDA keeps doing the things that it's doing. So that's my report. CEO report. Invoices for board approval.
Yep. So I have a few things before that. So the open meetings law has been extended. The executive order which extends that public meetings and hearings can be held remotely has been extended again until June 9th. I still don't believe the county office building is allowing people back in the building for meetings just yet. So we'll have to just continue on Zoom so that
Well,
the public.
the governor's position is if you've been vaccinated, does that have any bearing on that?
I'll certainly reach out to the county building and see if there are any changes now since this was just brand new.
Yep.
A few more projects are in the beginning stages. I'm meeting with one tomorrow. Another one just reached out that they're finally ready to start working on their application. So I'm looking forward to those things coming in over the next few months. As per our meeting last month, I transferred all of the insurance over to Ulster Insurance. They've already been very helpful with the renewal of our D&O insurance and the applications that had to be filled out for that. On page 15 of the packet, you'll see a letter from the Village of New Paltz along with a resolution that was adopted. On top of letting the whole board see the letter, I wanted to state that I reviewed everything with Joe Scott, and there isn't anything here that we don't already do. All of the information that they are talking about is kept up to date on our website. Board approval is needed to pay 2 UHY bills here. They have been doing progress billing, and the IDA bill that's here will push the total amount budgeted for the audit over budget by a few $100s. I expressed some disappointment to the auditors that we weren't warned ahead of time, and I'm unsure if they plan to send another bill, and I discussed all of this with Diane this morning. So I'm not sure if you want to wait to pay this, if you want to refer it back to audit, but I just wanted to give the board the opportunity instead of me holding on to it.
Well, let's just wait to pay it until we have total resolution. All right, Chair, is that okay with you?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Rose, I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
On the letter from Newport, I would just suggest that you write back to them and
I will,
inform
yes.
them what you just informed us.
Yes, that's the plan.
This doesn't seem that I don't want them to think we're ignoring them.
Yep, that's the plan.
Thank you.
Sorry,
then-
Rose. I'm happy to look at the draft letter before it goes out.
Yes, absolutely. It sounds great. And now tax season finally ended on Monday. So I'm looking forward to jumping back into a few other larger projects that have been on the back burner, as well as some policy changes, et cetera, that we're looking to do through audit committee and kind of getting back into the full swing of things. And I have a plan to have an update for you all next month. That's it.
Thank you.
The motion to accept the CEO's report.
So moved.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Fay. Second, Rick, thank you. Anyone else on the question? No? Therefore, all those in favor?
Okay.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. That brings us to committee reports. Dr. D, do we have anything or no?
Just one thing. Thank you, Chair. So on page 20, Loki Brill, their report on NS for the month of April, they had a 81.48% overall compliance, 95% for monthly compliance, as compared to last month at 92%. So they continue to trend upward. The other thing I wanted to mention is we need to schedule an audit meeting, and I'd like to know if the audit committee would be available on Tuesday, June 22nd from 9 to 11 a.m.
Well, how about Rose sends out an email and you respond in kind and see where it puts us. I do have one question. I remember going back, Diane, that when it came to the construction monitoring reports, and I don't know if we said, well, we'll change it in the job description. I had a concern over 1099s.
Yep.
And if that was reflected, or it was just, maybe it was Baxter, whoever was over there, but were we getting the full picture of who's on that site, or just who we were asking a report from?
Yeah, I believe it's the practice itself has not changed yet, because I also believe that part of that is we would have to change the terms of our contracts and engagement with them in terms of providing us with more of the information that we're looking for.
Okay.
So I think we were of the opinion we would continue what we're doing. And then once their contract is up, is to renegotiate the terms of the contract.
Yeah, that's part of what'll be on the audit committee meeting next month, for sure.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
I appreciate it. That it with you?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Need a motion to accept the audit report as presented?
Make a motion, we accept the audit report.
Hey, Orlando, I didn't know you were here.
I've been here all the time. I've been making motions.
And Rick Jones seconded that, right?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Fay, finance?
Nothing, Chair, for this
Okay.
month.
All right. Brings us to governance, Chair, Mr. Ham.
Governance. So the governance committee met on April 7th to discuss several different policies. Also, we'll be voting on them today. Am I correct? Yes. So we'll get to that last here in my report. Chair, I'd just like to let you know that with the mentoring program, we'll be finalizing that. We'll get a final draft over to you for the June meeting, okay, to take a look at and for the board's review, okay? I sent stuff over to Rose. Rose has been in contact with Joe, I believe, correct? Okay, so we should have something by the next meeting for that and outline what we want to do with the mentoring and present to the full board.
Mike, if I could just 1 second, Rick, real
Sure.
quick, can you tell me where that puts us on our community benefit?
Okay, I was going to get to that next
Okay,
on the
go ahead,
community
Mike.
benefits. So on the community benefits, we discussed it as a governance board, and we moved ahead where Rick is on the front of that. Rick introduced the community benefits paperwork over already to the CEO. And then with that, we asked Rick to rally around. Rick, who did you pick for your second there?
Dan and Orlando.
Okay,
My busyness on a host of other things, I haven't done much,
okay.
including and not limited to getting a hold of Orlando. So I will do that. I have a little bit more time over the next week and a half and see if
Yeah.
I can wrap it up.
you've got good groundwork working there already. I mean, it looks
Yeah.
really good. So if you guys could circle around so we can probably present a full report for the community involvement for June also, that would be great. Okay.
Just procedurally, Mike and Chair, when we finish our work, you want me to send it to you, Mike, and to the chair?
Send it to governance chair first and the CEO, and after they vetted it, they can send it to, myself and the rest of the board.
Okay,
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So,
Send it to council as well.
so we've got the community involvement program, Rick heading that up. The mentoring's coming through. All right. Let's look to present that at June's meeting. We are also going to be scheduling a governance committee meeting for next month also. There's a couple other things to go over. We do have 2 resolutions that we need to vote on today. We have the sexual harassment policy.
We
No.
did it last month, Mike. I'm
We
sorry.
did do it last month.
Yeah. I spaced when you were saying it. Yeah.
I apologize. You know what? I got it in my notes. Okay. And I was looking at both of those resolutions for that and discrimination. So,
Yeah.
okay. Other than that, Chair, once again, we'll be scheduling a meeting for June, and that's my report.
You on the agenda here, we have 2 subsections with Greenhouse and Darien Lake.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah.
Mike, before you go there, if you schedule the meetings for June,
Yeah.
just a recommendation, you try to do it before the regular board meeting, so I can go over
Yeah.
the community involvement.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, Rick.
Thank you.
So we have the proposed pilot, the adjustment for the pilot for Darien Lake and for the greenhouses. The greenhouses they were very good to work with. They said they agree to what our new pilot would be, moving along, adjusting it to the work numbers, the employment numbers. They were good. Darien Lake has circled back around, and council, can you touch base on Darien Lake's issue at this time?
Yes, and just stepping back for a second, in discussing these issues with the CEO, we thought it would be prudent to actually formally have a resolution adopted by the board on these 2 projects showing the adjusted employment numbers. The adjusted employment numbers were discussed as part of the original enforcement discussion. But again, we thought with the idea of document, which is what the ABO and the OSC has been stressing with respect to administration of projects, we thought that would be the prudent course to go. So as you indicated, Mr. Ham, the greenhouse people felt very comfortable with the revised job number and the revised pilot schedule. There has been some pushback and some discussion with the Darien Lake parties. They suggested, rather than the adjustment from 27 FTEs to 19.65, which is what they showed and were able to report in 2019, they wanted a number in the 14 range. That has been discussed at the staff level. It's not something for a number of reasons that we can't recommend. And that's the background with respect to the numbers here.
Joe, if I may, not to drag it along, but for anybody who's hazy on what the old UTEP was for both of these projects, or schedule was for both these projects, and what the new one is going to be, maybe either you or Rose can just indicate the old 15-year pilot schedule, what that was, versus the new one. I don't
We
have.
voted on the pilot changes in November, right? So the only thing we had to review here and just vote on was the employment changes.
Okay, and those changes were the old 15-year, for the benefit of those who are not aware of it, used to be, as I recall, the first 4 or 5 years were no taxes, I think. And then it would go to a very small incremental, and it was built up to ramp up at the end of the 15 years. The new 15-year that we're implementing, or we did implement already, is level setting everything for each of the 15 years. So it's a more gradual phasing in. So anyway, as I said, not to delay this. Joe?
And just to supplement what you indicated, Mr. Jones, is that your consideration, the committee's consideration of the job numbers was part of your analysis with respect to the adjusted pilot
That's
schedule.
correct. That's
And
correct.
it was critical that they achieved the 19.65 numbers in order to support the revised pilot abatement schedule that the IDA agreed to approve in connection with their monitoring and review of the project.
That's correct. Mike, you remember the detailed discussion we had around that. So
Thank you.
Good. Mike,
Yes.
anything else?
No, that's it, Chair.
So we just need to have a roll call, a motion and a roll call vote on the job number change for greenhouses. So it would bring it, if you look on page 51, it shows you it's bringing it from 16.61 to 8.25. And again, that was to bring them in line with what they had reported in 2019.
All right, let's make a call for the vote, the roll call. Go ahead.
Well, I need a motion, please.
Okay, I make a motion that we have a roll call vote. Can I get a second?
Second.
I have a second. Anyone else on the question?
James Malcolm,
Yes.
Diane Einen,
Yes.
Faye Storms,
Yes.
Michael Ham,
Yes.
Orlando Reese, Daniel Savona,
Yes.
and Richard Jones.
yes,
Okay. So then we just need the motion and a roll call vote on changing Darien Lake from 27 to 19.65.
I make a motion that we have a roll call vote on that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
James Malcolm,
Yes.
Diane Einen,
Yes.
Faye Storms,
Yes.
Michael Ham,
Yes.
Orlando Reese,
Yes.
Daniel Savona,
Yes.
and Richard Jones.
yes.
Great, thank you.
Next thing on the agenda there is the Ulster NH Realty. Mike?
Yeah, we have Saul coming in from NH Realty to discuss the drops in the agreement we had as per what the current numbers are up at the Golden Hill facility.
Is he here?
So he's not here. He said he would be, but he's not.
Okay.
Clearly, we're not that.
Making friends. Making friends.
Do you
Rose,
want to?
know what?
I'm not going to
You know what?
speculate on why he is or isn't here, so let me please just finish, okay? But apparently, there's a tremendous drop in the jobs he promised versus the jobs that are there. And, you know, for him or anyone in his organization not to make time or be involved in this at that time is really kind of insulting. So let's move on then. Old business, status of pending projects.
Joe, are you able to do that? It's on page 58.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Rose.
Yeah.
Page 58, Wildberry Lodge. We had discussion at the last board meeting. I jiggled the company council in turn jiggled Wildberry and told them or asked them to contact you, Chairman. I don't know if they've done that. If they haven't done that, I will
No.
push. Okay, so I will push company council again. Estonian, I've had intermittent contact with them. They are moving slowly toward directing me to get the IDA documents done. I expect it closing third quarter, maybe fourth quarter of this year. I understand that there was some positive news reported in this morning's newspaper, so that matter continues to move, but move slowly. Atheria, we have a public hearing tonight scheduled for that matter. Magruder is, we're still working on that with respect to the pilot structure, RBW, our documents are out on that transaction and are being negotiated. And I would expect a closing in the very near future, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And Romeo Enterprises, that's on the agenda today for final consideration. And then we'll take direction from the project applicant as to what their closing schedule is. So things are moving forward nearly on every front, Chair, and I'm opening up for any comments or questions. Thank you.
Just to revisit the Ulster NH Realty, if we don't hear something by the close of business day today, Council, I want you to move forward with actions that need to be taken.
I
I'm not going
second
to
that.
chase the guy around. It's not happening. I'm not looking for a motion or a second. I'm saying move
I
forward.
just,
I'll be in
I
touch
just
with
wanna let
Joe
you know.
after the meeting.
Chair, I do have a question on one of the projects that Joe Scott went through, if I could ask that
Sure,
question.
go ahead, brother.
Joe, you and I had spoken around the time after we voted on Kingstonian that we wanted to make sure that many of the things, and there were lots of stuff that was agreed to by Kingstonian. Off the top of my head, the two that are most concerned to me, and it's sort of reminded by the letter from Newport's, had to do with the investors. There was some suggestion that investors might change, and I just want to make sure that we're transparent. You and I had talked about a review of the documents to make sure that things like who the investors are is covered. And the other piece that comes to mind that I'm very concerned with is the way in which they adjust the rents of the apartments. And there were many, many more. So I know, question, it's still your intention to allow to go through some of these details with a member or members of the board to make sure everything's covered.
I think if I'm not mistaken, and please, council, let me know if I'm off track. Procedurally, we asked for an affidavit prior to a vote or confirmation. But once that's over and done and the vote has been, I don't know at that point what if
Well, one of the provisions,
we have the right or responsibility. You know, if tomorrow a guy comes in and says, well, listen, we'd like to get involved in a project now, can I buy into the project? Is at that point they're responsible to notify the IDA?
well, before,
Well, I'm asking the lawyer, Rick. I'm asking the lawyer. At the
well, I
time
want
that
to
we,
explain, I
at
want to
the time
explain
that
my
we,
position.
okay.
It's
At the
important that I
time that we
explain my
voted, Rick,
question.
Rick, I'm the chair, please. At the time that we voted, we had assurances from them. So after the vote, I'm asking council procedurally if we're responsible to know everything. If they make changes, someone buys in, that's the only thing I'm asking them. So when I have the floor, please let me finish my thought.
Can I,
Council. Joe.
Chair, to be honest, I need to go back and look at the minutes and look at what we discussed. Typically, what happens is that we get an application, it lists who the owners are, the investors are, and we close on that, and we don't get involved on any changes of
After that.
or management after that, unless it triggers one of the document provisions in our IDA documents.
Right.
So typically, there's no follow-up, if you will, or review between approval and closing.
So to Rick's point, it's conceivable that we still are responsible, Rick, and this is to your point, that we get that information. I don't want to know what ifs and maybes. Are we responsible to have the information or not?
well, if I could.
I'm asking the lawyer, Rick.
Well, I still want to
I'm
explain. the
asking
nature of my
counsel. You'll get
question.
your opportunity.
Yes, Chair.
You want to jump in on it. I'm trying to get a legal opinion from counsel. So I don't want to know what if or maybe or possibly. Are we responsible to know?
Chair, what I need to do is that there was significant discussion about this particular project, and there were concerns raised about the investment in the investors and who the investors were. So I have to go back and look at
So that's months ago.
Right, exactly. And
Okay, months ago.
I'm not, no, but the discussion, I believe, and I'm going on my memory now, I don't have materials in front of me, is that there were questions raised about who the investors were, and the board, the IDA board wanted a bring down, if you will, between the gap of when the application was submitted and
Right.
when we actually
It was
closed,
voted on.
who the investors are.
Okay,
Okay,
so
may
that
I
was a
speak
couple
to-
of months ago, right?
Yeah, may I
And we
speak?
don't have that answer at this point.
Well,
Yeah, may I
because
speak?
we're nowhere near closing on this. I expect, and at the risk of being flipped, I have in red lines on my file that Mr. Jones is going to be involved in reviewing these documents because he's told me or asked me several times.
I'll tell you who will be involved. It's who I appoint to be involved on the documents. So please, Rick, finish your thought.
Well, a couple of things. And if I wasn't clear, my positive vote for the Kingstonian, I made it clear, and it's in the minutes, that the issue of investors was an unanswered question and needed to be resolved. Likewise, I made the point in the meeting where the vote took place, or the meeting before, that a rigorous review of what's in that document, because there were so many things agreed to having to do with price points on the rent, the way in which those price points would change with federal numbers, income numbers. And it was pretty clear, at least in my mind, that my vote was contingent upon making sure that these things were included in the documentation. And to Joe's comment about underlining all those things that were agreed to, I was simply asking and mentioning that two of the items that I remember very clearly being concerned about, the rent increases and who the investors are, I made it very public, and in my mind, made that contingent on my yes. My yes vote was contingent on that being accomplished.
Was your concern on the affordable housing rents, Rick, or the other units that I can understand the affordable housing?
No, it was on all the
Sure.
units. The applicant had proposed to us in the detailed presentation that all the units would be pegged to federally established numbers based upon median income. That was my concern.
Okay, so that's
then
the
on the
affordable housing one.
No, not just the affordable housing, all of them,
Okay,
because that's what the applicant agreed to. And on the investors chair, if you remember, there was a comment made by somebody, and I don't personally believe it, but there was a comment made by the public, member of the public at the public hearing, that claiming that there was somebody who voted on the project, either from the town, or rather the
public sector.
school, right, who was an investor or was going to become an investor. Okay, you can make whatever claim you want.
Yeah.
It's very simple to get that resolved, is to make sure in the closing documents that all the investors as of that time, which was my point, as of that time of closing, have been divulged publicly. And that's all I was asking Joe.
I guess what my point is, you can't make a vote contingent on something if you've then voted.
Well,
We should have.
Had agreed, Chair.
No, what we should have done was get them to sign an affidavit at the point. So these questions aren't left unanswered. And in that affidavit, make them say, okay, if there's any change in this prior to closing, then please, it's your responsibility to let us know.
Well, again, what they told the board, and the board seemed okay with it, and all the members of the board, including the chair, was, well, we don't know. Between now and closing at the end of third quarter, fourth quarter this year, we may have some additional investors. And so the board said, my recollection, that's fine, we need it disclosed. Okay, fine, vote took place. So their word, in my mind, should be their seal of honor.
Absolutely.
And I remember that discussed very clearly. And oh, by the way, just for the newspaper or for the public, I don't believe that the claim made in the public hearing is true. And the simple way of attesting to that is for the applicant to make sure that all investors are disclosed. It's very simple. And they agreed publicly.
Well, I guess, you know what, prior to closing, that maybe we send a letter off now. Maybe we address it periodically. Has there been any changes? Is there an update in the principles of the property? Are we looking at principals, minority investors? What are we doing?
It was clearly who are the investors?
We only look at anybody over 5%.
Over 5%. 5% doesn't matter.
Yes.
Anything else?
Joe,
Chair, I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
So I feel as though this board really turned over every stone on this with the Kingstonian. And you know, Rick, I think our problem here is we're only as good as the information that we can receive. Okay. So I remember when that issue went around that a certain person was an investor and was voting on it on a level, but you want to know something? It was all bull crap. You know, it was all crap. That's all there was to it. Okay. I think it's awful tough. And Joe has been involved as CEO. They do a great job. They ask for every drop of information presented to us. And do you want to know something? I come from the world where one person introduce innuendo or rumor, and it's like a wildfire, Rick, amongst 500-600 people, you know, and it's a problem. But I think this board, and including yourself, we turned over every stone. We looked behind every tree for any investor, and that's what we ran by. So, you know, moving ahead, we can only do what this board can do. You know, we rely on the applicants also. Okay.
I understand, Mike, and I think what you're saying, or maybe you're not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is how I feel, which is I would be very disappointed if anybody who has a financial interest in this project wound up voting either as a member of the county legislature, the school board, or the City of Kingston Common Council voting on this project.
You know, Rick, I've been in a position before where I've seen this, what you're talking about, and somebody left the board, somebody left the municipality, somebody did something, and they circled around a year later and they invested money into a project. And I'm not saying morally that's acceptable. I'm just saying that it happens. And
What if it was somebody who voted no?
Nothing we could do at that point.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And certainly if somebody was to leave the legislature and later on invest in the Kingstonian, okay. The only thing that could be done for somebody who's still in the legislature and voted positively and went and became an investor, that would be a matter for the legislature to refer to their ethics committee, and they may decide that there's no problem. So
Correct.
it's simply a matter of, you're right, people can make all sorts of wild ass claims. Well, you know what? The way in which to bring these things to the light of day and to reassure the public that everything is up and up at the time of all the votes, was that at that time, and in a close proximity to that time, there was nobody voting yes on the project who also was an investor or was shortly to become an investor, shortly being within a few months. I think that's reasonable to simply say, don't you want to dispel that kind of comment from that individual as nothing more than poppycock?
Unfortunately, you're never going to be able to do that, Rick, because there's a subset of people out there that don't believe in the things that we're doing. They're entitled to their opinion in whatever direction it takes them. I've always been a big proponent of expediting the process. But with that being said, it's always good to have any board member who brings up a point that's valid and it's something that we should do. But sometimes we end up getting, not we as a group, but people in general, they get mixed up in the minutiae and the details, and anybody can throw mud at the wall and it sticks, and there the process again gets dragged down. What you're saying is very valid. When you're in when you're in a position of public trust and you're taking a vote on this as a legislator, a city council member, a school board member, transparency is the key. But there's something there too to be said for those bodies taking care and questioning their own members as opposed to us being the watchdog.
Yeah.
They have to sign financial disclosure things as well as we do, correct?
I don't disagree with that. There's a certain amount of responsibility on their part. And I'm be concerned with the integrity of our documentation and our process as the overarching, as an overarching goal.
It's garbage in, garbage out. We can only act on what we get. So,
It's tough
valid
being the
point.
honorable person, you know? That's the way you gotta look at it.
Well, we got really stringent on background checks because
Mhm.
to the chair's point, garbage in, garbage out. So we said, well, you know what? We want to make sure that we don't have garbage in, garbage out, and that we're dealing with people we want to deal with.
But to your point there, the chair also has discussed with the CEO and governance, what part of background checks are overkill that we don't need? So
Absolutely.
we'll find our rhythm there. But in this one, the high profile as it was, and the concerns that warranted or not, it's good to take the extra step. So wherever that puts us, is it still Tuesday? No, it's Wednesday, right? All right. Lucia, aren't you glad you don't own a hotel?
Mhm.
All right. Can I get a motion to accept council's report on status of pending projects, please?
I'll make that motion.
Orlando seconded. Anyone else on a question? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Romeo Key of Kingston. Rose.
Okay, so starting on page 59, we have the public comments that came in. There were only a few, as well as the public hearing from April 9th. On page 126 is the cost benefit analysis. Sorry, I'm just turning the page to that. Too many pages here, guys. It came up to 25-1. Most of that is obviously because of the benefits of the permanent ongoing payroll. And the regional costs were going to be mostly the sales tax and property tax exemptions. But it's still a benefit of 25 to cost of 1 ratio. And then on page 133, 137 and 142 are the resolutions that will need to be voted on today. If anybody has any questions on those couple of items that I have, then I think Joe is better suited to discuss the resolutions.
So would you like me to move forward, Chair, or are there any questions for the CEOs of part of this report?
I want you to move forward, Joe.
Thank you, Chair. So if you go to page 133, as Rose indicated, that's the first resolution of the 3 resolutions for consideration by the board as a governmental body. And I apologize, you've heard this before. As a governmental body, before you can take final action with respect to a project, you have to give consideration to potential environmental impacts. The operating policy of this IDA is to defer to the local permitting entity with respect to seeker compliance and seeker review. That's what we've done in this resolution, where we've deferred to the local permitting entity. The local permitting entity has considered the potential environmental impacts of this project and issued a negative declaration. And the purpose and the impact of this resolution is that we're concurring in the determination by that local permitting entity. And with that, I'll open it up for any comments or questions.
Chair,
Sure.
on the on the issue of the seeker at the public hearing, I had mentioned that I had some questions about the review done by the Town of Ulster Planning Board that either missed or whatever the presence of bald eagles on the Romeo property. So I compiled some questions for Romeo, the Romeo project, that Rose forwarded to Lucia. And Lucia came back with an answer. I'll just summarize what that says, and then perhaps if you want Lucia to comment further, fine. I had a question of, did the original seeker process identify the presence of bald eagles. And it did. It suggested that there was a high likelihood that bald eagles were present. In the reviewing the minutes of the planning board meeting, no action was taken regarding that from what I could tell, and Romeo Kia confirmed that no action was taken regarding that by that board in referring it to the DEC. And so the DEC did not review the presence or absence of eagles or the possibility that there are bald eagles there. For what reason, I don't know. So the applicant has proposed a solution which reassures me in terms of seeker. I don't know whether I'm the only one concerned with it, but what it was simply, it's enough of a distance between where the project is and where the nest is. I didn't check the DEC rules, but according to the applicant, it's within the parameters set by the DEC. That makes me comfortable. The second thing that Romeo Kia indicated they would do is not begin construction until mid to late July, which is beyond the time that the eaglets who are there would be fledging from the nest and would be leaving. So that seemed something that the DEC would have asked for probably had it been referred to the DEC. And the last thing that they agreed to do was to make sure that all outside work, raising the structure, putting in the steel, the sidings and everything of the building would be completed before the eagles may return to the nest, which would be in the late November, December timeframe. They agreed to do that. By that time, if all goes well, they'll be doing all of the interior work to the building. So there were three things that Romeo Kia came back and reassured the concerns that I had and the board had presumably, that make me feel comfortable with accepting the seeker report done by the town planning board with perhaps the note, Joe Scott, of it appears incomplete with respect to the review of the presence of an endangered species, and or the applicant has made three assertions which would seem to assure me and the board presumably that we can accept the seeker report from the planning board with those notes. So long-winded way of saying I'm satisfied that the applicant is attempting to clean up perhaps what was missed last year in the seeker review, and that the eagles will not be impacted. And Rose, I'd rather, Chair, you may want to ask Lucia if she has any other comments. She wrote a long.
Less is more, Lucia. Anything you want to say?
No, I think Rick covered exactly what we were proposing and where we're at. I mean, the only caveat I might say is just because of how building materials are right now. Obviously, getting the structure up by December is dependent on that. But I mean, hopefully with an approval, we'll move full steam ahead to get this done as quickly as possible.
Look, you know, we know as Rick brought it up before on our lengthy review of Kingstonian in process, things change in a scope of time. And right now, especially with costs of building, and not just cost, but availability of building materials, you do your utmost to keep to the promises made. But please, with all due respect, if there are any changes in that, as a courtesy to this board, could you please let us know? And I guess that would suffice for all the board members. You know, I don't want to put somebody out of business for months and months and months with material sitting on the ground. There's got to be some sort of, you know, happy medium there. So thank you for following through. Thank you for sitting and spending the extra time with our board members, and thank the board members for asking the questions.
Lucia, I do have a quick question. are you going to be using your old location once you move to the new location, or will you be renting it out or selling it or what?
We've actually already sold it.
Oh, you
We are
have?
currently leasing it back from the new owners. Yes. So I'm on extension number 3, I think, to our lease right now. And they've pretty much told me that we're in the last extension. So yeah.
So you have to move,
Once we're out, we're gone. Yeah, we have to move.
right? Okay.
Anyone else for Lucia? Where does that bring us? Retail, the resolutions?
Here, we need a motion and a second for the seeker resolution and then a vote. So that's where we are.
Motion for the seeker resolution.
I'll make the
Oh.
motion.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second.
Can I have a roll call vote?
James Malcolm,
Yes.
Diane Einen,
Yes.
Faye Storms,
Yes.
Michael Ham,
Yes.
Orlando Reese,
Yes.
Daniel Savona.
He's muted, but he said yes.
Everybody looks at these saying yes.
Not muting yourself, but yes.
Talking
And
with his
Phone
hands.
was ringing in the background. Yes, absolutely, yes.
He's Italian, Richard Jones.
Yes,
Okay,
Hey.
great.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll move to the second resolution and a brief summary. The second resolution is the retail resolution. Under the IDA statute, there are restrictions on the ability of the IDA to do retail projects. Retail projects are projects very broadly defined where people come on site to buy goods or services. A car dealership is clearly a retail project. This project is located in a distressed area as defined under the IDA statute. Accordingly, it qualifies for one of the exceptions contained under the retail prohibitions. And this resolution formalizes that finding. And with that, I'll open it up for any comments or questions.
Anyone? Comment? Question? This was
I
something.
have a question. With all the building and the new everything in Kingston and the craziness with 3,000 people moving in this last year alone, are the distressed areas going to be changed to non-distressed areas?
I guess that's a state thing, I would assume, Faye.
I mean, to me, these distressed areas are no longer distressed. They're very vibrant.
No, if you look in the back of those areas, that area does need to be redeveloped. If you go back Neighborhood Road, back in through that area, parts of Lake Katrina, that does have to be rezoned, but there are still some areas in there that do need help. Now, the 9W area, I get what you're saying, but if you go down Lake Katrina a little bit, go back in there, that area is kind of needs
Is
a little
that
help.
by
We need to
income?
find out who's responsible to do the survey as to what.
I'm sorry, Faye.
qualifies.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, I said what we need
No.
to do is find out what agency does the survey and gives them the status of, they need help or it's vibrant or what. So is that a state thing, council?
Yes, it's a combination of state and federal agencies that do analysis based on income, poverty levels, lunch for, free lunch for students, that sort of thing. And that does change over time. So we can certainly imagine a situation where an area was distressed and then in a later year becomes not distressed.
Do they do these things cyclically or is it by request?
It's an annual computation, Chair, and we look at it. So we look at, obviously it's not done, in real time. We would look at data for the prior year. And so as the site improves or the area improves, perhaps in the future, it may not be eligible for the exception.
Unless I'm mistaken, Faye, and just correct me if I'm wrong. Is it appropriate, or I shouldn't say appropriate, that's the wrong way to phrase it. Would it be out of line if there was such an influx and say Amazon came over and took over Enterprise Drive? Would it be possible at that point? Would it be in our purview to be able to ask the state to review it and change how it's denoted?
Is that a question for Joe?
Yeah,
We could certainly make note to that, but I mean, to be honest, Chair, the people that do these, what I guess what I would do is I would suggest that we, and I can work with the CEO on this, is that we talk to your regional ESD issue, ESD person on this, because the people that actually do the calculations, it's not subjective, it's objective. They collect the data, run them through their computers, and then boom, it spits out the answer, either above the line, below the line.
I think we're just trying to get a little bit more of an understanding and what, you know, what we can or can't do. And it's just to answer our board members' questions. So we'll wait for you to get back after your discussion. And that was an excellent question, Faye. Thank you. So are we going, what are we moving on to next? Did we take a vote yet on the retail findings?
No, we need a
We
motion.
have a motion to go and take a vote on the retail findings resolution. I'll make that motion. Do we have a second?
Make a second.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. Anyone else on the question? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried, please.
James Malcolm,
Yes.
Diane Einen,
Yes.
Faye Storms,
Yes.
Michael Ham,
Yes.
Orlando Reese,
Yes.
Daniel Savona,
Yes.
and Richard Jones.
Yes,
Okay, that brings
Okay.
us to the approving resolution for Romeo Kia. Joe?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This resolution was distributed in advance of the meeting. At the 50,000 foot level, what it does is approve the documents and authorize the chairman to sign the documents. There's three things that I want to outline in the resolution. One is that if you look at page 146 of the resolution, it's subsection E, where we indicate that the project is resulting in a move from one jurisdiction to another. There are findings that we need to make with respect to that, and those findings are supported in the IDA application, namely that they need to make the move for competitive purposes. And we've got the documentation for that. We've made the findings in the resolution, and we've gone through the procedural steps to reflect that. The second item is if you go to page 150, there's a series of criteria that this IDA has identified that they review in connection with the review of any IDA project. What I want to do is just very briefly go through those criteria. Starting at the top, there is a retention of existing jobs. There is a creation of new permanent jobs. The project applicant has committed to local labor construction. There is private sector investment of almost $6 million. We've outlined the value of the tax exemptions and the value of those tax exemptions vis-a-vis the value of the benefits from the company were described by the CEO, namely 25-1, which is a very high ratio. The company has a proven commercial track record. So item 6 is checked yes. Item 7 is checked yes because of the related income to be generated by the project. Item 8 bootstraps off of the comments from Ms. Storms about the benefits, additional benefits. There's development in a distressed area. Also touches base with Mr. Savona's comments about the need for additional development in that area. Item 9, there is alignment with local planning and development. It's gotten all the local approvals. There's a local support for the project. No brownfield remediation here. This is not a brownfield site. And there is compliance with the agency policies with respect to, for instance, the adoption, or I'm sorry, not the adoption, but the approval of a clawback agreement. The last point that I want to make is that the CEO has included in the package the public hearing record. And I think it's appropriate for either the chair or the CEO to comment briefly on the public comments received during the public hearing so that the board hears them directly, in addition to the written comments that you reviewed in connection with your preparation for this meeting. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Rose, and or the chair.
Do you mean the emailed public comments, Joe?
No, I meant, I think just really, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Rose. It's just a general description of there were people from the public. I attended also. There were people that attended. Frankly, many of the comments seem to focus on planning issues and environmental issues.
Yes.
That's really,
People that took issue with those things were in favor of, it seemed to be they were all in favor of, mostly in favor of the project. They just had some issues with some prior things that were more of the planning department's issue. And I also know that Lucia and her engineer have also taken care of the issues from an old site that they had started development on,
Original site.
that had caused some issues for the park, the trailer park behind them. So all of that's been taken care of.
I want to thank Lucia for taking the extra steps.
Yes.
We certainly will, and we expect the applicant to do that. And again, thank you for your time and patience. I need to get a motion to vote on the approving resolution. Can I have
I'll
that
make a motion to make a vote on the resolution.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Orlando? Thank you, Orlando. Anyone on the question? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Move for the vote. Thank you.
James Malcolm,
Yes.
Diane Einen,
Yes.
Faye Storms,
Yes.
Michael Ham,
Yes.
Orlando Reese,
Yes.
Daniel Savona. Danny,
Yes.
and Richard Jones.
Yes, I said.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Rick,
Okay.
you said yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Congratulations, Lucia.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate all of your work and all of your efforts in trying to address every issue that we have with this. So thank you very much, and we'll do our best to get it done fast and within the constraints that we've set forth.
No, well, listen.
Congratulations.
If this proves one thing, especially in the public hearing, and those of you who weren't privy to it, we may have touched on it before. This board does everything they can to answer questions on anything, but I would say, Joe, Rose, maybe 95% of the questions were matters for different governmental entities. But, you know, and then that's not to characterize or color anybody else in a certain way. We do the best we can to answer whatever we can. Yes, Joe.
and pardon me, Chair, at the risk of getting on a soapbox, I think
Feel free. I'm getting off mine. You can borrow it.
the number of comments received about other governmental entities reflects the level of transparency of this entity vis-a-vis the other entities. One of the constant, if you will, complaints of IDAs is that they don't operate in the public, they're not transparent, they're not responsive. Here, we had a public hearing, we published the public hearing, we noted it on our website, we advised the local governmental officials of the public hearing. We had a fair number of people from the general public attending, and yet they were complaining and commenting on actions of other governmental entities, which suggests that there isn't the level of transparency that should be had with those governmental entities. And I just want to reflect or make that point, because it was certainly at least apparent to me as I witnessed what was going on during the public hearing.
Just on a final note on that, and Rick, you can speak as soon as I'm done. You know, a lot of people have said, well, you know, the way this board does business has changed, but I'll tell you something right now. It doesn't change unless the people who are on this board buy in, and the people that are on this board have bought in, and that they're the they're the ones that applicants should be thanking up and down because they're the guys who do what needs to be done. But go ahead, Rick Jones.
Thank you, Chair. And Chair, by the way, thank you for your patience with me at every meeting. But I have one.
Danny Savona says, take them for a walk, but bring them back.
Danny, I love your haircut. Who doesn't?
Yeah, somebody hit him with a brick
I
on that
love
side.
Rick Jones.
I need a haircut.
Lucia is also giving haircuts up at the dealership.
Zero fade. I'm trying to save money.
My quick question, I hope that's what it is for Joe Scott. Hey, Joe, I'm led to believe in another board that I'm on that Innes is chatting with you about modifying the agreement to add the piece of property that they're adding to the inducement property. Is that happening, and should that be added to our list of pending project items?
Rick just did, but I had a brief conversation with the owner of Innes and explained to him what you had brought to us. And the guy says, but the building's going on the new parcel. And Rose and I were together on the phone call and told him, well, that changes everything. So whatever it is you're going to do, you have to notify us prior so we can make the documents reflect it. So they're well understand that. And thank you for letting them know, because if it wasn't for you letting them know, they'd have been on their merry way, and we'd have had another one for governance. So good one, Rick. Joe, you want to add to that?
Just for purposes of the follow-up, Chair, I did, at the CEO's request, I did reach out to company counsel. I had a very detailed conversation with company counsel. He forwarded me the new site diagram, and they are adding additional land to the project site, and they're moving the building, one of the buildings, to that new land. And I made clear to the company counsel that they need to have an amendment of the IDA documents to include that added site or that added piece of property, so that number one, it's subject to the pilot, and number two, it's counted for purposes of the job numbers. He understands that. We walked through a series of questions. I told him he needs to get that to me. I would then review it with the CEO, and I would expect that this will be on the June agenda for an amendment to the IDA documents to add that site. There's no additional benefits. There's no additional issues that require, for instance, a public hearing, but there's certainly a potential issue if they didn't add that piece of property.
Absolutely. So just in lay terms, Joe, would I be wrong in saying if they picked up a building and moved it on that new piece of property without letting us know, then that would be on the tax rolls. None of those jobs would count, and they'd be responsible and on the hook. So while sometimes people will come in thinking that we don't want to do for them, if it wasn't for us, we just saved them a ton of money. So good stuff. And again, Rick, thank you for bringing it to our attention and actually letting the property owners know. And I love you, Rick, and I would never be without you. You're the guy.
Make sure that's in the minutes.
Jimmy, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Do we have new business, or do you have something prior?
No, it was prior. I just had an update.
Okay,
But I
give us the
can wait.
update.
I had reached out to Jay Mahler in the meantime about updates for the county building. They don't have any new guidance yet. It's being discussed right now, so I will let everybody know
Say again?
when there's more.
You reached out to John Mullen?
Jay Muller
Oh, Muller.
about Jay Muller about the county building taking public meetings yet. So the county building, because those guidance came out so quickly, they don't have an answer, but they're working on figuring that out now.
I thought I saw the county executive was all over that, along with Mark Molinaro, about,
He was.
look, everybody reads the paper, so
Yeah.
I think it'd be nice where this is great. It's convenient for people, but it would be nice to be able to have a meeting and have the public there. And I know Bill's in a corner. I haven't seen him, but I know he's down there in the corner. He likes to show up. So hopefully sooner rather than later, right? Hiya, Bill. So, okay, when you find out, you let us know. All
Will do.
right, new business? Nothing, public comments on agenda items? Anyone?
Bill
Bill?
has one. Hold on, Bill. I got. Oh, there you go. You unmuted yourself. You got it.
Oh, everybody thinks I'm a mutant. Just so that I'm really clear on the Kia plan, is the plan, okay, this particular eagle's nest over the past couple of years, the eagles like to fledge in late July. I know this from observational, and I follow about 6 nests in different locations. And the tendency for bald eagles is, it's not like we can kick the eagle out and it goes off to college. What bald eagles like to do is gradually take their eaglet off and further from a nest. But some little eaglets, well, they fully grown little eaglets like to return back. So it usually takes anywhere between 2 to 6 weeks for any eaglet to not return to the nest. And the other thing is why they build over a busy intersection only proves they have bird brain to begin with. But my question is the plan not to build until they have fully fledged? In other words, you do not see a eaglet in the nest at all. That's my question.
How do you determine, question for you then, if you said anywhere between 2 and 6 weeks, how do you determine that they're just not off for a long, not to be flipped, that they're just not off for a long weekend kind of thing?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is, Lucia and the Romeo Kia people are certainly trying to work hand in hand with people that are, very in touch with the conservation and wildlife. So how are we to determine if they're going for good? Is there a number? 2 weeks, would you say?
When those of us who are usual suspects in photographing eagles call it eagle time, and it's like a baseball game. My wife says, how long are you going to be out? I go, the end of 9 innings. You do not know how long it's really going to be. And I don't mean to be little Johnny Raincloud here, but I'm just asking it. My question was, what will be the benchmark for determining that it has fledged? Because quite honestly, you have a really great observation area. If you wanted to be really great conservationist, that far southern end of the property makes a great viewing area for the nest. But you can see the nest, you can see the young, and so that's it. That would be my answer. When you don't see it over the course of 2 or 3 days.
6 weeks. I got you. I'm not,
Yeah,
again,
my
I'm not being
question
flipped either, but
Yeah,
I'm just trying to find something that accommodates each side. That's all.
I understand that, and I find that important to this story. But my question is, if you're saying that they're talking to people who are familiar with it, what are they telling them should be the measurement before they actually start
And
construction?
they should probably follow whatever the experts are telling them, and they can embrace. But as again, if we use the time frame of 2 to 6 weeks, I can tell you that's a long time, a month in between the bottom end and the top end on a project. So I'm sure we can find a happy medium, something that all sides can agree on. You see that they're going to be gone, they've left, and you get a general idea. But it's an interesting question, and we'll do our best to fall within the acceptable range for all parties. Okay? All right, like I noticed by the eyes moving around and the nodding going on, that we're good with that. So any other public comment on agenda items? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a
Rick,
motion.
I'll
to
motion.
adjourn.
I want Rick to say it.
Oh,
Do it, Rick.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you, everyone, for your time. See you soon enough.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rose.
No CRC meeting?
No, we're done with the grants.
Oh, good,
And there were
okay,
no policies for both. So yeah,
okay.
first
Thank
time
you.
in a year.
I know, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow,
All right. Bye, guys.
bye.
Aaron, you can stop the recording too. Hey, Rick.